Hey everybody, Jazz here. Welcome back to Black Gems Unearthed. I'm so excited to be back to share Black history of Massachusetts with you all. Most recently, I learned about a super successful Black hotelier, caterer, and inventor who was based right here in Massachusetts in the late 1800s. His name was Joseph Lee, and he operated multiple hotels in the state and outside of the state, in addition to running a catering business, restaurants, and he invented 2 machines that improved the bread industry. So I'm gonna bring you around Newton, Massachusetts, Boston, and Quincy to share his story with you all. So let's go, we got a lot to see. I have brought you all to Newton, Massachusetts, which is about 11 miles outside of Boston. And I brought you to a cemetery to introduce you to Joseph Lee, since he is resting here and he's been here with his family since 1908. So here you can see his tombstone and the names of his family members. Hey, Mr. Lee. I brought some friends with me here, so I hope you don't mind if I pull up a chair because I'm going to. All right, that's better. I am seated, but I must say I'm sitting under this tree that is shedding all sorts of pollen, but what can you do? All right, getting to the point, Chaz. Joseph Lee, this guy right here, he was born in either 1848 or 1849 in South Carolina. His father was Henry Lee, who was a blacksmith, and his mother was Susan Lee, and she was a cook. Both of his parents were enslaved, and so was Joseph actually during his youth. And it's likely that he picked up his cooking skills from working alongside his mother, Susan, in the kitchen at the Lee plantation. At least that's what I learned from the Quincy Historical Society. Joseph came of age during the Civil War, and so he was freed when he turned 16. And like many Black people that went free after the Civil War, he ended up coming up north, eventually making it to Massachusetts. He worked in Massachusetts, and after a bit of time, he was able to lease and purchase his first property that was right here in Newton. So I'm going to take you over to the location of the former site. This Woodland Golf Club that I am at right now is the former location of Joseph Lee's Woodland Park Hotel. He leased it in 1883 and then ended up owning it. And he truly made it his own. He expanded the building to add guest rooms. He added a bowling alley, billiards, and pool so that people could really enjoy themselves in this area that was a bit of an oasis outside of Boston. He managed the catering that was on site with his great cooking skills, so people really enjoyed the cuisine too. He had many prominent people that stayed here, including 3 US presidents. I learned this from a Forbes article and from the Boston Banner that he hosted Chester Arthur, he hosted Grover Cleveland, and he hosted Benjamin Harrison. He became quite wealthy from operating this hotel. In 1886, there was a news article that actually listed Joseph Lee as one of the wealthiest men in Newton. So Mr. Lee was a big deal. And this was only one of 4 hotel properties that we know of him either owning and or operating. So let me take you over to another one of his former hotel locations. Oh, still there. Over here in Boston, Mr. Lee operated the Abbotsford Hotel, which is this building right behind me. You guys don't even know how excited I was to find out about this hotel. How cool is it to know that a Black man in the 1890s operated a hotel right off of Commonwealth Avenue? So cool! I bike down here, I drive down here all the time, and tourists are always over here. Because there is a mall that has memorials and statues, including the Boston Women's Memorial that has Phyllis Wheatley. Ooh, ooh. I love going to visit Phyllis, but not today. I'm focused on Mr. Lee. So back to this hotel, I learned from the Boston Public Library that he leased this property in the 1890s that had just 21 rooms. So it was smaller, it was more of a boutique. It had a restaurant, which of course Joseph managed too. So in addition to operating this hotel, he was managing the Woodland Park Hotel that you saw the former location, but he also was managing a property that was way up in Maine during the summertime. It was a really popular family resort called the Fort Point House that was in, I want to say it's pronounced Cape Jellison, but sometimes I don't pronounce things right, so hopefully that's right. It's in the Stockton area of Maine, which I wish I could snap my fingers and bring you guys there, but that's a bit of a drive. I could go for some lobster. God, I'm hungry. But anyway, sorry, I digress. Back to Mr. Lee. So he had the property in Maine, he had this Abbotsford, he had the Woodland Park Hotel, and he lived over on Boylston Street where he operated a catering business, Lee's Catering, with his wife. So he was really on his grind. And with the catering company, he sold fancy cakes and ice cream all around the Boston area and catered weddings, political events. He was a big deal. With all the different businesses that Joseph Lee operated, he was always thinking about how could he improve things. So that's probably what led him to his two inventions. Over at the Woodland Park Hotel, he had some serious problems he needed to solve in the kitchen, dealing with bread. The first issue was inconsistent bread quality. He found that depending on who was the baker that day, he would either have really good bread or not so good bread. This led Joseph to come up with a machine to automate the kneading of the dough, because depending on the kneading, that was one of the key things that affected the quality. And that machine changed things completely. He was able to make consistently delicious bread and much easier. He made hundreds of loaves of bread, just stacks on stacks on stacks of bread. But this created a second issue, which was too much bread. He had so much bread and only so many mouths to feed at his restaurants, so that he would end up having bread that would go to waste and become stale. So what did Mr. Lee do? He came up with another invention. He came up with Lee's bread crumbing machine. He took those old loaves of bread and he threw them through a machine that turned it into breadcrumbs. So the next time you use breadcrumbs in your kitchen, you gotta say, thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee made some serious dough off of his machines. He sold the machines to many businesses, many in the hospitality industry. And then he sold his patents off. He sold the automated kneading machine to the National Bread Company, and he sold his Lee crumbing machine to a company based in New Hampshire. I think it was called the Goodell Company. So thank you, Mr. Lee, for those inventions. Unfortunately, Joseph Lee was managing all these businesses during a time where the country fell into an economic depression, and that did end up catching up with him. So he ended up releasing his lease on the Abbotsford Hotel, and he had to sell off the Woodland Park Hotel in 1896. But that does not mean that he stepped away from the hospitality industry. So let me take you over to two other ventures he started after he let go of the Abbotsford and the Woodland Park Hotel. In 1897, Lee found a brand new business opportunity back out here in Newton in the Auburndale Village area of the town. He was able to open a brand new restaurant called the Pavilion that was in a park right near the Charles River. But I can never really pronounce the name of the park, So let me grab someone that lived in Newton for many, many years to get the right pronunciation. I have my resident expert, my grandmother, Myrtle, here to tell me. How do you pronounce the name of that park that you used to?
Norumbega.
Norumbega. Okay, because I like to call it Norumbega, like Lubega. That's not right.
Norumbega.
Norumbega.
N-O-R-U-M-B-E-R-G-E-R. G-E-R.
It's okay, you don't really gotta spell it.
Thank God.
You remember that park?
Oh, yes. We used to have a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It was our park to play within it as we were. There was nobody to tell you you can't do this and you can't do that. It was our park.
Oh, nice. All right, you guys heard first. Norumbega?
Yeah, Norumbega.
Norumbega. See, I still can't pronounce it. Norumbega Park. It was a fun place for families to go. Obviously, she was not there when Joseph Lee had his restaurant in the 1890s. You know, she's got a few years, but not over 100.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
There we go. It's the Norumbega Park. So I'm actually sitting in the present location of the Norumbega Park, and oh my God, there are some really pretty swans over by the Charles River. Woo! Let me see if I can show you them. Oh my God, how cute are they? Oh, I love it. So Lee opened the Pavilion restaurant and it overlooked this Charles River. And it was a very upscale establishment, excellent cuisine. It was really a nice place to come. And the Norumbega Park was very popular because it was right off of the train that came all the way down Commonwealth Avenue. So let me take you to see the other location of a new business that Lee opened after he closed the Woodland Park Hotel and the Abbotsford Hotel. Okay, I made it all the way out to Quincy. I'm standing on the Chapel Rocks, very careful that I don't move too far backwards because it's a little dicey up here. But I came all the way out here because in 1898, Joseph Lee came out to this area in order to manage the Squantum Inn. It was a summer resort with 16 rooms that was very upscale. People loved it because it overlooked the Dorchester Bay, and people really knew Joseph's reputation at this point of having really good cuisine. So he had clam bakes and game dinners here that people enjoyed. Lee managed the property all the way up until his death in 1908. But that wasn't the end of his legacy. His wife Christiana and daughter Genevieve ended up opening another property in Quincy in the Squantum neighborhood called Lee's Inn, which wasn't too far from the Squantum Inn that Joseph managed. I wish I knew more about his wife and daughter and his 3 other kids. He had 4 kids total, but I have yet to find information about them. I'm kind of curious, like, are their descendants hanging out around Massachusetts? Like, what happened to them? So I've got more research to do to see. So Joseph Lee, he really achieved a phenomenal level of success, especially considering the times that he was alive in the late 1800s when black people were escaping the South from Jim Crow and coming up north to where there were more opportunities, but there was kind of a ceiling for the level of opportunities for black people. But Joseph Lee found a way. He managed 4 hotel properties, he had his catering business, he managed restaurants, and he came up with the inventions for the automated bread kneading machine and for the bread crumbing machine, which I'm happy to say in 2019, the National Inventor Hall of Fame finally inducted him as a person in the Hall of Fame. But I think more can be done. I mean, when we're talking about the hospitality industry and the food service industry and about people who have achieved success, we need to be talking about Joseph Lee. This guy had it going on. You guys can take a look in the description to see the many sources I pulled from. A big thank you to the Quincy Historical Society, Alexandra Elliott, and to the Newton Historical Society / Jackson Homestead, Sarah Goldberg. Thank you so much for your help with the research, and the folks at Forbes too that helped me with searching around for photos. That's all I got. I'm really hungry. All this talk about bread and breadcrumbs and clam bakes, I gotta go find some food. So, see y'all next time. Hey yo, it's time for a food adventure. I came back out to the Norumbega Park because I wanted to come back to Newton in order to get these amazing Peruvian empanadas. There is a personal chef / awesome empanada maker based in Newton. Her business is called Chiquu's Kitchen. Her name is Krisha, and she makes the best empanadas in Massachusetts, maybe period. They're like a Peruvian style, so it's like a little sweet and a little savory. Look at that, it's so perfectly golden. And look at how she does the crust, the edges. Ah, so beautiful. Delicious. This is the chicken, so good. Check that out. Delicious filling. I am in my happy place. And I've seen 2 dogs since I started to sit here. And I got to pet one of them. This is getting a little too hard to eat on camera, so it's time for me to go. I'll see you guys next time.